It's really great to see you here, and after traveling so long. So I don't know where are you coming from because I saw some good old friends, from Unreal Fest Orlando, and now I'm seeing that in Europe. It's pretty cool. I'm not, in US or in Europe. I'm coming from China, so it's a long travel here, and it's really great to see you guys here, and hope you enjoy all the great events today. So today I'd like to go to share some of the things that we have learned to build Fortnite Imposter game mode. It's kind of one of the most long-lasting game mode we built for Fortnite, and I will went through the idea about how we build the game mode, how we design and turn the game mode into a social experience that is no longer a shooting game or it's platform game that Fortnite might used to be, and then how can we help you to build some similar social framework in your UEFN experience? So that will be a topic of the today. So first, let me have a very quick introduction to all of you. I'm Chen. I'm coming from China, and you can, if you know Chinese, you can also call me He Chen for it. It might be a little bit difficult to pronounce. And my title is a little bit strange because it might be quite long, called as Principal Technical Product Designer. It's kind of some jobs mix between I'm doing both technical design work, gameplay design work, and also product design work and try to build tools or something for it. So I have been in the game industry for more than 17 years. I built several games, including some of the AAA games like Far Cry or Splinter Cell, and then I joined Epic Games and built Fortnite, and most important, the creative and UEFN moving forward. So that's me, and let's start to do the actual action. So before we officially start, I'd like to show this gameplay trailer video again, if you've not seen that before. So it's short. Let's do it.
We've run things successfully for thousands of years. We, the imagined order, facing crisis after crisis, without a single failure. But since Jones betrayed us, now it's clear. He wasn't working alone.
Okay, that's the first part of the section. It's simply a brief introduction about the game itself and what I'm doing, and then I will jump to the next section about how we design and implement Fortnite Impostors back to a few years ago, before we actually have word scripting language, before we actually have UEFN ready, because before we actually have a lot of devices, compared to what we have today. So let's start with a journey about design Fortnite Impostors. By that time, we don't have the UEFN, but we do have the powerful Unreal Engine. We do have as Epic internal, we do have access to C++ code and blueprint, and we can try to dogfood a lot of things, that UEFN cannot easily do. But eventually, those dogfooding work is now becoming part of the UEFN. We built the foundation pieces that UEFN is now working. So let's start with the journey about Project More. This is a code name of Fortnite Impostors. So if you know or not that every Fortnite product has some kind of your cool or strange code name. So Impostors is with the Project More, or this little cute creature. Is that more? And that's, if you look at the environment of the chaos, this is the shooting range we have in the imposter game mode. That's where we started with our idea of more. And we try to build something not like traditional Fortnite is doing, not something that you do this kind of building, anti-building, or you use your gun to eliminate someone else. But we try to use 3 new design pillars, and then to build a game around it. Those 3 new design pillars is something that I summarize it as 3 aces. That's something that it's something simple that start with simple, social, and suspicion. What does that mean? That means that we need to define those three key pillars about what would be the way that we build Fortnite imposters and what would be the fun comes from it. So let's start with the first pillar about the simple. Simple actually means that a lot of things that you might already learn from the game accessibility or this kind of onboarding sense for it, that players, when they load into the game, they don't need to learn a lot about how the game is playing. You always understand who you are, what's happening, what you should we do. And you don't need to make the players think about what to do next. And social is one of the most important part we want to have for Fortnite imposters. So we'd like to build the social framework where that there are always a way for players, they can communicate with each other. They can communicate through things like voice chat or through like some kind of formal text chat. They can also communicate even through by some emote, like if you want to vote someone out, you point your finger at the target. That's already built the story or the social part for it. We also have some kind of thing we call as a quick chat and in-game interactions to help this out, which I will introduce in the next section. And the last part is about the suspicion part. It's actually one thing that we feel like imposter is actually helping to generate a lot of emerging stories or a lot of cool memories back to it, because every design element we put in the game experience is actually helping us to establish some kind of reasonable suspicion of the player. For example, if someone was eliminated and the other folk is standing looking into that, would this guy be the bad guy who is doing the work? Or if someone is following you from one room to another one, that will also be a thing that you consider as something suspicious for it. So in the next couple of slides, we will go through some more details about how we build a scene out for it. Before we start on everything, we built this mirror world. We have it was a team that's from China, from United States, from the UK. So that's why we are not working on set together. But we use the mirror world, and we draw a very simple layout of that. So it's quite simple, straightforward. As you can see that we have this point of interest, the POI called bridge. That's the central part or the central hub of the area. And we also have a lot of other interesting rooms or locations that where you can do the activities around. And then we plan all the tasks, all the activities behind that, and make sure all the paths are connected. There is no dead corner of that, and you can always find your scene out. So we spent a few time on brainstorming it, and then we jump to the actual environment setup and actual implementation for it. So when we design imposter game mode, it takes place in a Fortnite world that where we have some of the Fortnite gameplay, and also we have a lot of storytelling moments that it will tell you why it happens in this area, what task or what elements should I actually look into. So here I show you some of the concept art or the early mockup we make in the Unreal editor that we imagine about what's the current place that player should be located, and is that looking right as a Fortnite location, or is that looking good as part of the Fortnite story? And with a lot of iterations, we come around with a few key locations like this. This is a food court area that you can see some of the famous, Fortnite signature content like Do Burger, tacos, or Pizza Pit. If you look at those signs, you will say, "Oh, this is different Fortnite. This is nowhere else in the world have that." We also have this beta pass repair room where you are doing the task to help to clear all the beta pass. And also there is even one task, it's a very funny task that you need to clear all the thanks later in the beta pass. Because if you play BI enough, that you might already press B button to sync the bus driver a lot. And now you're doing the task, clean all of the bus syncs later. Otherwise, that'll be too much of it. And the third location is also an interesting one. This is the storm control center. And this is also where Fortnite is. Well, that you see the Fortnite map, and as a player, that's your target. Actually, you control the storm locations. You trick how the Fortnite storm is deployed in the actual VR world. So that's a lot of the fun moments when we're trying to build a game model. We try to make sure that you're part of the world, and the bridge itself is actually have a lot of interaction into how the battle royale world is going. So this is where we start with the environment. And now it's come to play a role to say, I'm in this environment, I'm in this Fortnite world. What should I do? So I'm playing as an agent or as imposters. But what agent or imposter do? So if you're looking at these two characters around, you will see that they're in different, symbol. They are in different team. But what the team is actually trying to do. So we will introduce that, as a two-man role. When you are playing as agent, the target is just, let's complete assignment, or let's vote out all the imposters. If we accomplish this, we will win. And as imposters, that's different. That's something opposite. That you either eliminate all the agents, or maybe you're smart enough to try to persuade all the other people to vote innocent agent out. You will also win. So that's why you need to hide your identity at all costs to make that work. And then we start to implement a lot of different game phases. For example, when you start into a game, that will give you a choice about what kind of role you want to play with. A lot of people might want to play with imposter, so that they will choose to go to this console and to interact with that. I prefer to be an imposter. But there are also a chance, because this is not 100% chance granted for it. So there are things that it will give you the role you might not like. But the more you are playing, the more possibility that you can get the actual role you are winning into. And once you are picking up the role and everybody is working well with that, we go into the next phase. It's actually, we start the role assignment. Just like what you can see in the video, you are being assigned as agents. Or you are being assigned as imposters, who are the guys who, bad guys, try to pull the agents. We are building a lot of the sequence work behind the scene for it. The sequencer is helping you, to drive what kind of animations, what kind of poses, what kind of light effects we want to show for this. And during the sequencer, we are also playing a lot of information UI widget to help you understand that better. And next is about you have already been assigned with a role. What happened next? You need to do in the game. So we started to implement the task or the sabotage operations, which is trying to be against your work to get the task done. So let's look at some of the tasks we implemented. This is one of my favorite tasks. This is an arcade game called Fort Fighter 3. I hope eventually we can even make a real game called Fort Fighter 3. But if you are playing arcade game enough, you know where that might come from. And then we also have some of the other games, it's coming from non-Fortnite shoes, and it's actually a dancing game by that time. And you need to follow the drop down notes and make sure that you are doing the right dancing move at the same time. And the next one is a very specific one. We call that food court or the food order, where you should follow the sticky note of these instructions and make the order and put the order to the right location where it aims to. So let's watch a full video. It's pretty simple and straightforward, but it helps you to lead the player from one location to another one. Okay, assignment complete. Apart from those assignments, we have around 36 assignment tasks in total, but we also have the three other key operations, what we call as sabotage operations. One of the most, beloved operation is something we call as pity party. That's where you can turn everyone into a pity skin. You wear that pity skin, and so everyone is seeing each other as pity. So you are making some kind of illusion that you are hitting your actual role in the game. And in this capture, this is one of my favorite moments I ever get into the game. We started pity party. And you can see now that all the players are now turning into pity, and someone want to give me a hug. But sorry, I'm the bad guy. I don't want to give a hug to you. I'm manipulating you. So to build that, we actually started with the blueprint script. It was a little bit messy. It's not that messy as the graph shows. But the thing like we want to move fast, so we eventually build every core system and every task, every stage in Blueprint within 1 week. It works. We pre-test that. We feel the core game loop is actually pretty good. And now it's time to look back to it to try to do things in the right way or more extensible way. So we work with our epic engineers. So we refactor that heavily from the left to the right side. The left is all blueprint driven. We try to broadcast a lot of signals around. We try to add every task step manually. And then the right part is that we are creating a new custom assets that we break down the task into different stuff. Like task need to have some kind of core logic. Task need to allow you to do some specific thing, and task need to handle about when task is started, or when task is stopped, or when task is interrupted. So with the new style, it's actually helped us to make the task much more easier. With also, we can still use Blueprint to do a lot of cosmetic stuff or the actual interactions. And then our engineer helped to build things around with this C++ code. You can see we have a lot of different states, including how we start with a lobby, where you start yourself, choose your own role from it, and then you have your voting, your task, different states for it. With that, in the task work we are doing, we're using this task logic actions, and it will tell you if you are entering a task phrase or not. And with that, we start to build this kind of task asset. This is the task data that we are seeing previously of the food order task. It's simple that it only tells you what will be the interaction it uses and what will be the task tracker it tries to use. It also has one interesting usage that we have called as set player leash. The reason why we want to do something like this is that we want to provide some kind of general solution for the task when you are trying to just leave the task. If you leave that task far away enough, you don't need to do it. You don't need to manually go into menu to deselect the task. You can just use this leash, and when you go out of it, the task will come from the current running state to the pre-running state, meaning that you can still get a task when you interact with it, but then you can do anything else you want to do with it. And then we also integrate a lot of the component, through the C++ code that we nativize from the Blueprint, that we handle a lot of things, including about how we broadcast people have this role assignment, and how we communicate with different game state and different task state. And then we generate this kind of common task setup manager we have for the game. Like we can easily tell how many tasks that we can give per player. For this one, this means that we have 2 tasks at maximum, and number of scores required per player, or should enemy or should the saboteur receive task. Those are all the things we implemented from the native component and expose for the designer to tweak. Designer can easily change the value, or they can easily hotfix the value. So when we are playtesting that, we don't need to rush to a different build. We can just change the value on fly to do the work. And then this is another example of how we built this game state manager. The game state manager actually contains two main game state machines. One is about gameplay state tasks. Another is called the voting state. The main reason is that when you are playing around Fortnite Impostors, most of the time you are actually jumping from task to voting, because someone is calling the voting, it will interrupt the task. But when the voting is over, it will go back to the task state again, and then it will need to connect the state and do all the necessary transition around that. So when we get close to the end of the task framework, and now the part is about the core social pieces that we were building for Impostors. We have made a lot of effort to get the three pieces working right about reporting, discussion, and voting. Reporting is something simple that if you see someone has been eliminated, or if you are just get close to the bridge and you can just get your phone call and ask everyone to join the meeting to discuss about what is the imposter, why should we vote them out. So we start again and we get into the voting discussion phase. That's where we have this quick chat system that you can use your chat to say that, what's the fact, what I'm doing. I want to raise a question, can you answer me? And also I want to say that you are the imposter. So all the quick chat here is logging a history in this part, so people can know, oh, who is talking and who has been accused as the imposter. And then once the discussion is over, we start to do the voting for it. And you can see that people say, one is lying, or two is imposter. They keep fighting each other and try to misleading all the other players. So make a vote. And once you vote the character out, and if you are doing it right, they will be selected as the imposter, kicked out of the game. But it's not always the case like this one. He was eliminated, but it was an agent. So when this happens, that means that it's actually an imposter win for it. So if you're a agent, sorry for it. And to build all of this, that we actually leverage a lot of custom UI frameworks that for better readability and also communications of it. So we do this kind of custom control mapping for both different roles on the agent and imposters. And also we are doing a lot of work on the custom widget of your task indicator, and task indicator on your screen. And here is also the custom minimap that can easily tell you where you are at, because we don't want information-rich minimap. We just want to know where you are and what location you want to look next. And then the next part is about the quick chat system that we prototype and build a lot about. We start with something like questions, judgment, and observations, and then we finalize with something like defensive or accuracy, or the questions, or something like I don't want to talk, I just skip that. And everything we have built on this was building upon this framework. If you are using Unreal Engine, this is called dynamic UI. This is also the UI system we are now using in Fortnite heavily, and also UEFN. The UI framework is allowing you to dynamically update all the widget, all the information at runtime, so you don't need to worry about the performance cost, and because those UIs are only loaded on demand. Similar to what you are doing now with UEFN, if you are using with devices like pop-up dialog device, it's using similar framework to dynamically add that in your screen instead of having a very big UI framework contain everything. So it's already 30 minutes past, and then we started with one of the last sections about some of the key takeaway from developing Fortnite Impostors. So the key takeaway is coming from a lot of design and also the operation part from it. The first thing about the simplicity, the core pillars is actually key. We make sure the imposter game mode itself can be reachable by most of the players in the world. That's why the first thing that we want to call it out is don't make me think. When you play the game, you don't want to make players think about how should I play with that? Where should I go to? And what should I do next? So we always have this kind of clear interactions, indicators around on the screen, and make sure that if you are in the game for a little bit longer and you are standing still, we will have some kind of reminder to you as well to tell you what is actually your role next. What is your way that you want to win the game for it? It's usually quite helpful because sometimes that people, if they're getting distracted for a moment, when they get back, they still know what to do with that. And the next part is about social engagement. This is also something that values a lot for the game mode. So the first thing we call out is that we never drop player out of the loop. Means that even you are getting rotated out, even you are getting eliminated, you're still in the game. You're still in the game that you are in your proximity chat channel or you are in a ghost mode. You can interact with others. You can navigate through the world. You can check through all the interactions, all the conversation. You can check your teammate is misleaded by some other bad guys. But that's all the story you have. We never want you to stop the game and then drop out for it. And that's one of the things that the social engagement helps a lot. And we also want to tackle a lot of the communication barriers down. So for example, for me, I'm coming from China. I'm not a native English speaker, so you might have some kind of difficulty to understand what I'm talking now. But with all the system we are providing, like a quick chat system, it's localized for any of the language. You don't need to be a native speaker to use the system to communicate to others. And if you are unhappy, to talk from your phone, this quick chat is also helping a lot for it. And the last part is about proximity chat. This is some of the new feature we added at the end of the imposters operation. And surprisingly, it boosted the play time a lot. It's boosted around 50% of the play time every day. So before we have the proximity chat, every player might spend 28 minutes in Fortnite Imposter every day. And when we release the proximity chat, it's actually boosted up to from 28 minutes to 44 minutes. It's actually a great thing for a player who wants to stay in the game, because if you want to play with your friends or your family, proximity chat might be the way that you want to work with. And then the next part is about the other thing that we called about the species, about how we build the stories that we always keep suspicious for it, and we encourage people to speak. Literally about it's not real speak, but use the quick chat to express your idea. Use your emote to express your attitude, and we also encourage people to think about how the spectating and ghosting works. There are a lot of emergent, storytelling coming from it. Like one of the stories I showed before the talks, in the team of the team we're building imposters, I'm the only guy coming in China, so I'm not a native speaker. And when I try to tell lies to my teammates, I usually win that because I tell the lies in something that without any of the emotion, with my poker face, and people say, okay, I trust Chen. He never tell lie like this. But actually, I win that. So those are stories I really like a lot. We play this a lot, and I almost win every round because of this. So that will be a fun part. But still, we are struggling on a lot of other elements. Like we're struggling on some of the bad actors. People are just not willing to play. They just stay in the game, not do any of the meaningful thing, and not contributing for it. Or some of them they're building some of the teaming strategy. They party up with a friend and they just vote people running out and not doing the work. And then the last part is about when we have this act on the AFK. So if player is AFK, and then the game is meaningless for it. So that's why we start building this kind of mechanics that, if people are doing things, we can report the bad behavior, but we also lower the XP they can get about the, when they're AFK, and more importantly, if they're AFK, your votes will no longer be accepted. So you are still participate to the game, but if you are epic enough, we think that you are actually not participate in the game. So it's a little bit polished, but it's also something that we do implement for Imposter. And for UEFN game, if you want to try something, you might not have all the epic control, but you can also make something similar to it. So that's the whole story when we built Imposter. In the next part, I want to have a quick introduction about, as creators in the UEFN ecosystem, if you want to build a social experience, what you want to start with. So let's first start with some example of the community. We already see that, I play that a lot, and I love the game. From the community team that he actually built imposters in UEFN, using similar environment and using similar game plan. It's pretty cool, and I love that a lot. I hope that you can enjoy this as well. Okay, so this is the island that we already got in our ecosystem. But now, if you want to start build your own social experience, what you should start with? So usually that you need to start to define what will be your core game rules or your core sense you want to work with. For example, this is something that I will usually start with. I don't want to put any of the reverse logic or any of the device to it, but I want to define what will be our core game rules, like the round setting or the matchmaking or the chat system. I'll give you a link here. This is a link about how to configure your matchmaking control for it. I think it's super powerful because it actually gives you the control about how many players you really want to put in your game. So I don't go through all the detail, but if you have time, yes, you can look into the official docs that we're giving. It's very helpful. And then you have a very simple startup about the core game rules. It's time to break down your game flow with UEFN. This is the one that we break down in Imposter game mode. That we have different states that we call in Imposter. Like we have the matchmaking, in-game lobby, pre-game. That when we set up the player role, gameplay where you are doing the task of getting eliminated, and then voting. The last part is about game over. So if the voting finished, it can end up with game over, but it can also return to gameplay. So for that, I think that's one of the critical moments that you need to think about what the gameplay states you have in your game. And then with this graph, make sure clearly about what will be the state or gameplay activity. You can start actually constructing the reverse code. Now that I'm building a system for it, that I want to have 4 game state. I cannot control matchmaking, unfortunately, because it's in the front end, it's in the actual in-game lobby. But then we can have this game lobby to construct your choose your role. We have the gameplay, voting, and game end. With this game state defined in the word script, you can actually listen in any of your tasks or your activities in that game state and try to react to any of the game state change using the current event system or the signal system we're doing. And just for your information, the current system we are doing for the scene casting is exactly the same system we are building for Imposter. We build that as a general gameplay message system, and now is the underlying part of the words and also the device's logic is doing. So once you have all this, imposters, game states defined, now it might be a chance that you need to find the right devices for your gameplay. We have a lot of different devices in the mode, and sometimes it might be challenging to find the right thing for it. So here is some of my suggestions. You can use your own preference, but this is also usually where I come from. So if I want to build a core gameplay logic, I normally do that in the custom words logic because there's no other way I can script all the sense and doing all the new states work or communicate with different game state tasks for it. And then you might need to use a hard and UI controller device like map controller, make your own custom mini map, and hard controller to hide anything you don't want, only highlight the one you want to use. Hard message device is a very interesting usage. You might not want to use this device to just show some general message, but you might want to use this device to make sure that you can present the key information, like when you are getting selected by imposter or when you are getting eliminated by them. The device is actually doing pretty well, and it can work with the sequencer to make sure it can be played at the right timing for it. And then you might want to use a map indicator as well to customize what would be the on-screen and also UI indicator is. And also recently that we released a few new devices early this year, like discuss device which allow you to turn yourself into another cosmetic to discuss with somebody else, or the voting group and voting option device. It's simply doing what Imposter can help you to do the voting mechanics. So if you want to build this kind of social deception game or the Imposter style game, those are the devices you want to work with. And the last part is about the cinematic device that you can use the level sequencer and the cinematic device and with the mix up of player reference device or the character device to do something similar I showed before about how you present the idea about when you are getting selected as imposter or agent or being voted out. And the other part of it is that we also have the way to allow you to construct the task system in words. So if you want to build something like this, you can start simply with that. You create something with a different task state, like if the task is not started or task is running, complicated or interrupted. And then in this task script, manual system script, you can handle all the logic or extend that easily with a lot of different other devices or actors in the world. So this is a very bare bone script for that. But later on, we will publish a few more examples about how you can actually use that to build the whole task system or interaction system in words. So once you get everything done, you can start to pull your own assets into the game to build a lot more tasks or interaction or eventually end screens out of it. So now this is all yours. And then in the last section, it's kind of very specific section about how we enable the Fortnite Imposter on the mobile platform. So as you might already know that Fortnite is getting back to iOS already, and we're also getting back to the majority of the Android marketplace. And there are a lot of push on how we enable the game mode in mobile. I'd like to quickly show you how we build that for Imposter Mobile, and then what does that mean in future or when we build a mobile experience in UEFN. So this is an example video about the very original Imposter mode that we run on mobile. You might already see that it has some kind of janky pro mode. It's not really mobile, it's still a controller thing. And if you are still using your nameplate on this corner, you might not be noticed that easily because for mobile players that might not notice this. You might also notice that a lot of overlapping part in this area, especially on the map. So that's why in the mobile part, we're developing a hard layout preset, which allow you to change the map location, to change most of the composition of the UI element. And most importantly, we scale that. We scale that up so that for mobile users, that they can easily look into who you are, what my task is, and the central location will always be your objective to accomplish. This applies to any of the tasks or the stability actions, so we can keep the skin as clear as possible, and then let people to actually focus on the key element, like the social part of the quick chat, or what the map will actually present on the mobile. So this is that we are currently working heavily that we want to provide you the same capacity in the mobile that will allow you to build your own custom UI and your own custom HUD layout, that you can get rid of some of the legacy Fortnite BR UI and then only focus on the mobile. So with all the work come here, it actually help us to establish a very smooth, clear, and very accessible mobile experience. So that's the end of the talk, and the last part is about the mobile part, but we go through the way we handle the imposters in UE and UEFN, and hopefully after this session you can start to think about if you want to build a social game, and what would that be. Thank you, everyone. So if you need anything, just reach out to me on the big corner. Thank you again for